What qualifies a presentation to have merit? I hope to answer this by analyzing 3 engaging presentations. The first was presented by Apollo Robbins, who wanted to show the power of perception. He began his presentation with some stories about himself and the practice of misdirection, and some exercises with the audience to get an understanding of his main idea. He then proceeded to explain how misdirection worked for a short minute through the use of humorous visual representation, but gave the best explanation of the process through a live demonstration with a volunteer from the audience. The whole experience was quite intriguing and comedic, which pulled me deeper in with each laugh and wow moment. The next presentation was given by Frank, who sought out to tell of how the internet can be used to connect people like nothing else. To do this, he shared a series of projects that he created to bring people together, as well as beautiful stories that came along with them. And it was those very stories that would invoke emotion and laughter in the audience that created a connection to Frank's message. The final presentation I would like to share is one given by Alexander Bruce. He wanted to give insight on his own experience with being an indie game developer, but more importantly, he wanted to single out the factor of luck. He did this by beginning his presentation speaking of luck and what it is to an indie game developer. He then goes on to tell a story of his struggle to get Antichamber released on Steam. As he tells his story, his PowerPoint has a year and some bullet-pointed core ideas of where he was in his story and where he was going. He did not do this to draw attention away from the story, but instead to give the audience something to look at in case they felt lost. Though the aspect that truly drove home his message was his delivery. As he would get to a hard part in his story, the pain in his voice could be heard as he would relive the moment, and it was this humility that allowed the audience to relate and connect to Alex. From these presentations, I have pulled 10 aspects of them that creates a presentation of merit. Comedy is a great method of connecting to people. As long as the joke is funny, it will most likely resonate with people, which in turn invokes emotion, digging the message deeper into the audience. Frank uses this aspect in a more of an awkward sense, which helps in pushing the audience out of their comfort zone, as well as establishing humility within Frank. The beauty of humility is that it makes the presenter appear more human, which in all regards makes connecting with them easier, since being human is the best thing the audience would know. Alexander uses humility the best out of the 3 presenters. He uses the humility to create a foundation with the audience to who he is, and the fact that he too has felt the same pain as them. And pain, being something everyone can relate to, emotional or physical, creates a strong bond between the speaker and the audience, as much so as comedy, if not more. Alex expresses his pain and humility through a story which he tells the entire length of his presentation. With a well-told story, a presenter cannot be limited to the amount nor the type of emotion they can evoke in their audience, which is exactly how Alexander pulls his audience into his world of experiences and insights. Though to help him along with the story, he uses 2 more aspects. First, Alex uses bullet-pointed slides, not as a crutch or a distraction. No, he uses them as a map for his audience to follow as he brings them along on his journey. As long as the summaries are no more than a few words, they can assist an audience in following the presenter's message rather than being distracted from it. The other aspect Alex applies is repetition. This aspect can be found in all the presentations given. Each presenter uses some kind of phrase or similar theme repetitively throughout their presentation. It helps the audience connect the dots and creates a more clear message. Frank does this in his presentation by sharing a series of projects, each different from the other, but carry the same theme, strengthening his message. Frank's series of projects is also a good example of exemplification. Through the use of examples of the presenter's message, the audience can get a more concrete idea of the very message. This same aspect takes another form in the way of a live demonstration, a method used by Apollo to give a clear example of his message. He did this by bringing up a volunteer from the audience and demonstrating the power of a forced perspective, which leads into the next aspect, interaction. This is what Apollo did more than the other presenters. He would ask the audience to perform exercises that would give instant feedback on his message. This method also engages the audience and brings them out of their comfort zone, which pushes them further to look at the presenter's idea. And finally, visual representation. The use of pictures in a way that makes the presenter's message less intimidating and more digestible. Apollo does this the best with a story about a man in your head, which represents one's ability to perceive. Each one of these aspects connect to one of the 5 theses from slidology. The exemplification, demonstration, representation, interaction, summarizing, and repetition all help the message of the presenter be seen by the audience through different methods. And the humility, comedy, pain, and storytelling push to cultivate those healthy relationships between the presenter and the audience. In the end, to create a presentation of merit, one should apply a combination of these aspects to engage the audience and embed the message within them.